Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Death toll from floods in Spain rises to 205 as residents appeal for aid. Japan and European Union announce a defense pact. EU's foreign policy chief calls it a timely step. Botswana's ruling party loses power after 58 years. Country likely to get a new president. And in the US, Kamala Harris woos undecided voters while Donald Trump vows to protect Hindus and boost ties with India. Rescuers on Friday raised the death toll in Spain's worst floods for a generation to 205 as the government deployed more troops in an increasingly desperate search for survivors. The floods that have tossed vehicles, collapsed bridges and covered towns with mud since Tuesday are the European country's deadliest such disaster in decades. The organization coordinating emergency services in the hardest hit eastern Valencia region said 205, in fact 202 people had been confirmed dead there. Officials in neighboring Castilla-La Mancha and Andalusia had already announced a combined 3 deaths in their regions. Rescuers equipped with drones and sniffer dogs waded through water and rummaged through debris in search of the dozens of people the authorities believe are still missing. The government is deploying an extra 500 troops to the stricken areas to bolster the 1,200 already on site for search, rescue and logistics tasks. Some cut-off areas remain without water, food or power 3 days after the floods began, and many roads and rail lines remain inaccessible, raising fears the death toll will climb. The European Union has expressed concern over the devastating conditions caused by the floods in Spain. While addressing media during COP16, European Commission envoy Florica Fincuya called the floods catastrophic.
A tragedy like this one is not just a Spanish one, it really affects all of us in Europe. It's also important to see that such devastating impacts, these sort of flash floods, of course they're exacerbated by climate change and by the high temperatures and the drought. But all of this is also because of the drought, again, then biodiversity has been lost. So it's an illustration of what is going wrong for the moment in the world.
Japan and the European Union announced a new security and defense partnership in Tokyo, which EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell hailed as a historic and timely step. Borrell and his Japanese counterpart Takeshi Iyawa unveiled the pact to develop cooperation on joint military drills, the exchange of information related to the defense industry and space security, among other matters. He called it the first agreement of this nature the EU has made with an Asia-Pacific country, describing it as historical and very timely.
I am extremely pleased to be here with Minister Iwaya to announce the conclusion of this security and defense partnership between the European Union and Japan. It is the first agreement of this nature that we conclude with the Indo-Pacific countries. And it's so important because we are fully aware that Indo-Pacific will be the theater where the history of mankind will be written in this century.
In other news, the US pushed for a diplomatic resolution to end the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah as a rocket attack by Hezbollah on Israel claimed at least 7 lives. Hezbollah said that it had launched several rocket and artillery attacks against Israeli forces. Israeli air defenses intercepted rockets fired from Lebanon as the IDF continued its campaign against Hezbollah. Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there has been progress on requirements for the implementation of a UN Security Council resolution that calls for withdrawal of Hezbollah from the Israel-Lebanon border.
This would be the basis of a diplomatic resolution to the crisis. It's important to make sure that we have clarity, both from Lebanon and from Israel, about what would be required under 1701 to get its effective implementation. The withdrawal of Hezbollah forces from the border, the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces, the authorities under which they'd be acting, an appropriate enforcement mechanism.
Meanwhile, days after Israel launched airstrikes on Iran, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel has the capability to reach anywhere in Iran should the need arise.
Israel today has more freedom of action in Iran than ever. We can reach any place in Iran as necessary. The supreme goal I gave to Israel Defense Forces and the security branches is to prevent Iran from achieving a nuclear weapon.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin discussed opportunities for regional de-escalation with his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant during a telephone conversation. Austin reviewed prospects for a hostage release and ceasefire deal. In a statement, Gallant's office said that the Israeli defense minister briefed Austin on the success of Israel's strikes on Iran and also discussed about strategic opportunities that may have arisen. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has hailed very close ties between Moscow and Pyongyang. He met his North Korean counterpart, who was visiting Russia. The meeting comes amid accusations from the West that Russia is planning a military escalation in Ukraine using thousands of North Korean soldiers said to be in Russia.
Very close ties have been established between the militaries and special services of the two countries. This will also make it possible to reach significant security targets for our citizens and yours.
North Korea's foreign minister said that the country will stand by Russia until its quote-unquote victory in Ukraine.
The Democratic People's Republic of Korea has unwavering confidence that the Russian military and people who have risen with resolve in the just struggle to end the high-handedness and unilateral actions of the US and the West and establish a new international order will surely achieve victory under the wise leadership of Comrade President Putin. We affirm that we will always stand with our Russian comrades until the day of victory.
The United States is expecting North Korean soldiers in Russia to deploy in combat against Ukrainian forces in coming days. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that about 8,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia's western frontline Kursk region, with a total of 10,000 troops in the country.
We now assess that there are some 10,000 North Korean soldiers in total in Russia. And the most recent information indicates that as many as 8,000 of those North Korean forces have been deployed to the Kursk region. We've not yet seen these troops deploy into combat against Ukrainian forces, but we would expect that to happen in the coming days. Russia has been training DPRK soldiers in artillery, UAVs, basic infantry operations, including trench clearing, indicating that they fully intend to use these forces in frontline operations.
North Korea successfully test-fired a new intercontinental ballistic missile dubbed Hwasong-19. North Korea's state-run media showed a video of the missile test carried out on Thursday, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un watching the launch at the site. North Korea said that the launch had the longest flight time compared to previous launches. The Hwasong-19 demonstrated the range to strike nearly anywhere in the United States. But moving on, more than 65 million people across the U.S. have cast an early ballot either in person or by post as of Thursday. This according to the University of Florida's voter tracker. The tracker also shows that 38.4% of the voters are registered Democrats and 36.2% are registered Republicans. These figures only apply to 26 states with public party registration information covering just under half of the total of early votes. Party registration data does not precisely predict a voter's choice. While most U.S. states allow early voting, it's important to know that officials are not allowed to begin counting ballots until Election Day on 5th November. Meanwhile, national surveys show Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump by just 1 percentage point, 48% to 47%. Trump holds a slight lead in the swing states of Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina and Pennsylvania. In the two other states, Michigan and Wisconsin, Harris had led since the start of August, sometimes by 2 or 3 points, but the polls have since tightened significantly. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has strongly condemned the violence against Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh. The Republican presidential candidate has vowed to strengthen his ties with India and called Prime Minister Narendra Modi his good friend. Trump said that Bangladesh remains in a total state of chaos. He alleged that his rival Kamala Harris and U.S. President Joe Biden have ignored Hindus in the U.S. and across the world. In July and August, the Hindu community in Bangladesh was attacked by mobs after students' agitation over a controversial quota system turned into a massive anti-government protest, which resulted in the ouster of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. To Africa now, Botswana's opposition Umbrella for Democratic Change has won a majority in parliament and can form the next government. The announcement by the country's Electoral Commission on Friday marks a historic defeat for the party which had governed the diamond-rich country for nearly 6 decades. Outgoing President Mokgweetsi Masisi conceded defeat in Wednesday's general election and said that his government would begin handing over the reins of government in the next few days. The UDC needed 31 seats out of 61 to govern alone, and its results, combined with those of 2 other opposition parties, had already reached that target. UDC leader Duma Boko, a human rights lawyer, is expected to be the next president. Right now, take a look at what else is making news around the world. An electric-powered passenger ferry which glides above the water on hydrofoil has made its first trip as part of the Stockholm public transport network. The hovercraft can reduce energy consumption by 80% compared to other regular fast vessels. The world's first wooden satellite, built by Japanese researchers, is set to be launched into space on 5th November in an early test for using timber in lunar and Mars exploration. The LignoSat is developed by Kyoto University and home builder Sumitomo Forestry. West Hollywood came to life as thousands of people, some dressed as historical or contemporary figures, attended the famous annual Halloween Carnival party. From the quirky and unique to the bizarre and extravagant, many attendees showed off their creativity with imaginative costumes. And still to come on DD India Live. 5 school children among 7 killed in a blast in southwestern Pakistan. And India's GST records second highest collection at 1.87 lakh crore rupees in October, driven by domestic sales.
Who will be the next president of United States of America?
Will Donald Trump make a dramatic comeback, or will Kamala Harris become America's first woman president?
It's a tight race to the White House.
The knives are out and the battle lines sharply drawn.
He's becoming increasingly unstable and unhinged.
She's a threat to democracy because she shouldn't even be the candidate.
I'm Amritpal Singh.
I'm Shubhendu Ghosh.
We travel across the United States
to decode the issues at the heart of this polarized election.
Watch this space only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Patrolling by Indian troops in the Demchok sector of eastern Ladakh began on Friday. Patrolling in the Depsang sector is expected to begin soon. On Thursday, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had said that disengagement process in certain areas along the line of actual control is almost complete after a consensus was reached between India and China. The minister had also said that New Delhi would try to go further beyond disengagement, but that will take time. An explosion near a girls' school in Pakistan has killed at least 7 people, including 5 students, and injured 23 others. An improvised explosive device was attached to a motorcycle which targeted police officers guarding polio vaccinators. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif condemned the attack, which coincides with Pakistan's third nationwide polio campaign launched this week amid rising cases of the disease. India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, highlighted Ayurveda as a bridge between India and Sri Lanka, connecting the two nations through shared cultural heritage and traditional healing practices. Speaking at the 9th Ayurveda Day celebration held at the University of Colombo, he emphasized how Ayurveda, rooted in ancient Indian wisdom, has blended with Sri Lankan indigenous knowledge over millennia. In Bangladesh, Kali Pujo or Shama Pujo, a religious festival of the Hindu community, was celebrated across the country with due fervor and enthusiasm. The main features of the pujo were worshipping the goddess Kali, lighting earthen lamps at their houses, temples and crematoriums in memory of their departed elderly persons. The Hindu community lit up earthen lamps, candles at their homes, temples and crematoriums in memory of their ancestors. In business news, Indian equity indices ended the Muhurat trading session on a strong note with Nifty at 24,300. The Sensex was up 335 points at 79,724.12 and the Nifty was up 99 points at 24,304.3. About 2,904 shares advanced, 540 shares declined and 72 shares remained unchanged. All sectoral indices ended in the green, with auto index rising 1%. The BSE mid-cap index was up 0.7% and small-cap index 1%. Right, joining me from Mumbai is my colleague Shama Mishra. Shama, tell us more about the Muhurat trading. How did the session go?
You've already said the Muhurat trading was in green and it ended on green. This is the 7th straight session that the Muhurat trading ended in green. Now, the significance we all understand with this Muhurat trading, the special 1-hour session, is that once the outcome of this particular session, if it's in green, the entire year that is followed will be in green, will be in positive returns. And this is the, this is what the belief is of the investors. Also, we spoke to a lot of investors and brokers about what they feel about Muhurat trading. They were all of high hopes that Indian economy is actually going very strong, and it's really high time that everyone, not just the Indians but the entire global investors as well, should become part of this global growth story of India, where India is marching towards Viksit Bharat. We are talking also about the sectors that were trading in green. Now, you've also mentioned that there were sectors in NSE and BSE both which were trading in green. So let's talk about auto. So auto is something which was actually in green in this particular session, and interestingly one of the brokers also spoke about this particular segment, this particular sector, as the people, even the middle class or the lower middle class, they are buying the two-wheelers or even the cheaper cars that are coming into the market. So with that, we understand that auto segment is actually in too much in demand, and with that, a lot of components of the auto sector, of the automobile, are also in demand. So we can imagine that the sector, and including the other components sector, is also going to be in huge demand. And that is why these sectors will be trading in green in months to come. Also, the brokers are also of the view that, even if there are corrections coming into the markets, because our markets also mirror the global indices, global market. There are corrections coming in, the investors should stay put, and they should eye for the long term in investment, because the returns that the Indian markets are giving, it's actually really good, and the returns global markets. So we can understand it's not just the economy of India which is a bright spot, but also the capital markets which is giving good returns to the investors, and a huge number of the first time investors, of the new investors coming into the market has also been registered, only showcasing that the strength or the faith that people have, that the Indians have in the markets, are only growing, and this is all the growth story that we will witness in years to come.
Right, we'll leave it there, Shyama. Thank you. Shyama Mishra reporting there from Mumbai. And some more good news on the economic front, as India's gross goods and services tax, or GST, collection in October stood at 1.87 lakh crore rupees, registering a yearly jump of 8.9%. According to India's Finance Ministry, in October 2023, the total GST collection stood at 1.72 lakh crore rupees. The collections in CGST, SGST, IGST and cess increased year on year in October. So far this year, the total GST collection has been higher at 9.4% at 12.74 lakh crore rupees compared to the 11.64 lakh crore rupees mopped up in the corresponding period of 2023. Now, October 2024 recorded the second best GST mop-up. The highest ever collection was in April 2024 at more than 2.1 lakh crore rupees. To sports news now, Shubman Gill and Rishabh Pant are at the crease as India ended the opening day at 86 for 4, trailing New Zealand by 149 runs. India was solidly put at 78 for 1 at one stage, but they lost 3 wickets in 8 balls, including Virat Kohli, to hand advantage to New Zealand. Earlier, Ravindra Jadeja claimed his 14th 5-wicket haul in Test cricket as India made a remarkable comeback to bowl out New Zealand for 235 runs. With 4 wickets to his credit, Washington Sundar also held the host's cause. Daryl Mitchell top scored for New Zealand with a terrific 82, while Will Young hit 71. To football now, Manchester United named Ruben Amarim of Portugal as its head coach, replacing Erik ten Hag. The 39-year-old won Premier League titles in 2021 and 2024 with Sporting Lisbon. He is now signed a deal until 2027 and will join the club on the 11th of November. Ruud van Nistelrooy will continue to take charge of the team until Amarim arrives at Old Trafford. United sacked Ten Hag on Monday after a 2-1 defeat by West Ham left it languishing at 14th in the Premier League with just 3 wins from 9 matches. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live. But you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download it. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.